I'm Gabe Lullo, and welcome to the Do Hard Things podcast. We're talking to go-to-market leaders and entrepreneurs who have conquered the challenges, the hustle, and the grind. Get ready for real talk, real insights, and no fluff.
But the hardest thing in the world right now is not actually closing deals, it's actually getting somebody's attention.
If you don't have that hook in that first 5 to 10 seconds, guess what? They're going to scroll to the next one.
You need to go in and you need to make it sound like yourself. That's the biggest piece of the puzzle. And I promise you, we can all tell.
The people that are trolls and the people that are haters never done the thing that you're doing.
I love doing this podcast because I get a front row seat to some of the greatest minds in sales.
Gone are the days of saying stay in your lane. When you're an executive leader and you're an enterprise-wide leader, there are no lanes. You've got to be partners.
Curiosity is like when the type of questions you ask is sometimes the value that you bring.
I need you to tell me when you're ready to buy or what you're ready to do. And I think it's changed so much into like adding more value. And if you're not doing that, then you're definitely going to come off as desperate.
High pressure selling is like a dinosaur tactic at this point.
No parent is like, oh, you should be a salesperson when you grow up, right? Everyone's like a doctor, lawyer, whatever crap. It's never salespeople.
It's not your job to motivate people. It's your job to find motivated people.
It's not cockiness. It's not arrogance. It's confidence knowing I know this and I know that I can help you.
From where I started to where I am today is all because I learned how to sell.
And there's too many people who have only been doing this for 5 freaking minutes. Sit down, close your mouth, actually go out there and get yourself beat up. Then come back and tell me if something is dead or not.
That is exactly why I started this podcast, because right there, that's the epitome of doing hard things.
Welcome back to the Do Hard Things podcast with Lexi and Gabe. Sabrina Shafer is a leading voice at the crossroads of technology and business. Known as a human behavior decoder and an expert strategist, she drives powerful growth and real results for major tech companies by blending insights from behavioral science, advanced tech, and law. A serial entrepreneur with 3 successful exits, Sabrina also led the Fear Forward initiative and hosts the Leadership Live podcast, turning complex topics into actionable insights for leaders across industries. Her authentic, high-impact content and strategic vision makes her a trusted partner to some of the world's biggest brands. Sabrina is a top speaker and collaborator for organizations seeking real market impact. Sabrina, welcome to the show.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Do Hard Things podcast with Gabe and Lexi. I am so excited to be sitting down with Sabrina. Sabrina, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited for today.
Absolutely. So I got to start. I ask this question as our first question always is, few kids ever really say, you know what, I want to, jump into human behavior and lead technology strategy at massive companies, right? So here you are, though. What's your origin story and how did you get this journey started?
That's very true. I don't know if there's a whole lot of kids out there, but if they are, don't give up. Human behavior is cool. So, stick with it, kid. Quickly, a bit about my background. I'm an immigrant. I was born in Germany, moved here in early grade school. And the catalyst, and this was actually something I was so scared to talk about for decades, and then realized how important it was to who I am and why people needed to know this, was we were homeless when we moved to the States. We lived in a car, and my mom borrowed money from my sister's second grade teacher to get us our first 1-bedroom apartment. And she turned like our dining room into another bedroom. And that taught me the fundamentals to business and life at such an early age, which is you got to be scrappy, be resourceful. It wasn't, I can't do it. It's, I'm going to do it. And to know when to lean into the right people. If it wasn't for that teacher, who, by the way, did attend my high school graduation. So that's a little bit of my origin story and where it all started.
That's awesome. And you've had a remarkable journey, built 3 companies. It's no small task, but I always love those early moments and the ones that really test you. So looking back, what would you say your first real business test was and what made it so tough?
You're right. I have started and sold a lot of companies, and it's a good time, but it's incredibly challenging. And I remember, I always looked at my education when I was a student as a job. And I remember just bawling one day and going, this isn't fair. I started college very young. I was 16. And so as an immigrant with no money, see previous question, I had to figure out a way to pay for it. So I started a company, which I still is the only company I've started and haven't sold. I still have the company today. Um, that provided services for special needs kids. And so I'm running this company. I just got my driver's license. I move out. I'm paying for everything. I'm getting straight A's and I am maxed out. I mean, I'm tired and it hurts. And I'm crying to my mom and I'm like, this isn't fair. Kids going to community college or, their parents are paying their way. And I'm just struggling to like make it through. And she taught me something then that has literally made me millions as a business executive, which is don't worry about them. Get better every single day for yourself. Just focus on how can I get better today, even just a little bit. Don't overcomplicate it, which, I know we'll talk about later. So that was my first I can't do it moment. And in every part of life, whether it's business, personal, dating, you name it, there's a I can't do this anymore. Anybody been married had that feeling before? Anybody been dating? Anyone been, you name it, driving in traffic? I can't do it anymore. So when you fundamentally know where to put your time and your attention, it changes literally everything about the outcome and your experience throughout it.
That's amazing. I mean, let's double down on that because you teach, you speak in front of thousands of people and crowds, and it's amazing watching, you as a guest speaker to these massive companies. But when I looked at your, trainings and coachings, it's really about leaning into that fear, right? And leaning into that discomfort. And you were talking about walking away or wanting to give up. What was there any early moments that you were like, you know what, I've had it, I'm done? And then what brought you back to get you on track to keep moving forward?
Anyone who says there isn't is lying or not pushing themselves hard enough.
Right.
Get bigger goals and go for it is what I would say if you haven't. I have had so many instances of wanting to walk away and wanting, and I talk about this publicly. I'll be in front of about maybe 8 to 10,000 this weekend. These are things that I openly talk about. And part of the reason why I talk about my failures, but also my fears. In fact, I'm about to post something that I'm like terrified of. It's a huge public failure and I don't want to admit it and no one knows it. So that means I've got to say it. But I think you have to double down on fear. It's something that I now lovingly call fear forward. Um, I think the best parts of life are on the other side of being comfortable. And that middle part is called fear. And the better you can get with just being scared and not, you're not trying to trick yourself. You're not gaslighting yourself to say, I'm not scared. No, you're scared. You're just going to show up anyway. Um, but I will tell you, I didn't get there organically. I got there through a lot of failure and a lot of fear and just going, okay, I'm going to take fear on. So to your question, something that I've really wanted to just quit and walk away. One of the last companies that I just sold, I remember we lost our largest customer at the time. They got a new CFO. Oh, this is humiliating to share. No business owner wants to say I made huge rookie mistakes, by the way. I had way too many eggs in one basket. But I was a rookie and we were young.
Yeah.
So the company gets a new CFO. They change their procurement, which is like how you onboard and pay stuff. And so we went from millions to zero within an hour. And I panicked. That I remember calling just about every stakeholder I could find to figure out how am I going to solve this. It ended up taking exactly a year and a half. Now we do millions with them again. They're a great client. Thank you. You know who you are. But in that time, I remember going to a stakeholder and saying, I'm shutting it down. I can't do this. This is bananas. This is absolutely crazy. I can't do this to the team. We're innovating like crazy. And now we've got this big, massive gap in the way. And same thing. Focus, kid. Just focus a little bit better every day. So from there, I decided, okay, well, then we're going to have to pivot like any good business. Every single part of your life, you'll have to find a pivot point where you go, hey, is this worth investing in or not? And so we decided to naturally expand. And now we work with Google, Dell, Intel, Amazon, NVIDIA, I mean, Worldwide Technology, E Plus, Pure Storage, Palo Alto, every single major tech vendor in the world at the C-suite on down. I mean, it's unbelievable. We get pulled into some of the largest, coolest projects. We've got some stuff with SpaceX coming up. It's unbelievable, with what Google's doing with AI, and we've got a bunch with Amazon. It's been the biggest blessing in my life. And again, this goes back to what scares you most will change your life. So just pushing through it. That's the only advice I have is focus.
Yeah. Looking back at those early challenges, how did they influence the leader you've become today?
It forced me to be more humble. It definitely forced me to be more vulnerable. Not to get too much into the nerdy brain science of it, but that's a big part of my education and background as a profiler. You think better when your amygdala is not triggered, when you're in a safe environment. There's just a lot of science and studies behind it. And I'm such a driver. I'm such a perfectionist, recovering perfectionist. I really am trying. So it taught me to be far more humble, which requires be far more vulnerable and to say, gang, I don't know how to do this. I'm going to need you to help me figure this out, or we're going to figure this out together. I've always had a level of grit, and this is just going to happen. We're going to be successful. But how you get there has been the biggest shift in my leadership.
Yeah, grit's my favorite word, I think, in the English language.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a game
So
changer.
you're working at the intersection of human behavior and emerging technologies. So what's, the hardest thing about leading innovation that really no one prepares you for?
That's a great question on what are people maybe not preparing you for necessarily from a human or behavioral perspective. It's that ability to adjust. In business you have to be able to adjust really quickly. It's better to make a decision, make it fast, and move forward with it than to take too long. I did a podcast with Sonia Giandani. She's just brilliant. If you don't know who she is, you should absolutely follow her. She's built and sold, I mean, companies for billions of dollars. She just recently sold a company to AMD. Prior to that, I think several to Cisco, including, several that are the largest products for Cisco still to date, maybe 10, 15 years later. Just a brilliant human being. And we did a podcast on market disruption because she builds products, technical products that really disrupt markets. And one of the things that, we talked about and that she's really educated me on is the timing behind it. So yes, move fast. That's something you don't always get prepared for. I think a lot of times we have this like analysis paralysis and we need to know, what does the market say about this? What's the competitive research? The truth is, if you have a good idea, there's probably not going to be a lot of competitive research. What would you have compared Amazon to before they started? If someone came to you with a business model that said, we sell everything to everyone and we have our own products and everyone's products, you'd be like, you have to pick a lane. That's the worst business model ever. And we're going to lose money. For how long did Amazon lose money consistently when they started? So we're going to sell everything. We have no niche whatsoever. And we're going to directly compete with, our partners. And by the way, we're not going to be profitable for a long time. Do you think we should do it? Everyone's going to say no. So, and there's not going to be a whole lot of competitive research behind it. So to get too stuck in that analysis is probably the largest problem that I see big companies doing, and why those startups, especially you're seeing them in AI getting eaten up, why they're so successful and have been, is because they're able to pivot quickly. And then you see the real celebrity rock stars across industries that are able to do that, but have money behind them. So not only can they pivot quick, but they build damn good products or solutions with a really smart team. So it's certainly not something they necessarily teach you when you go get your MBA or, in kind of business 101. But I'd say fundamentally, those are the principles you've got to have to be successful.
Amazing. And challenges can also be a springboard for success. Could you share a moment in your career that felt really challenging, but ultimately led to significant growth or a turning point for you?
Yeah, it's my entire career. It's my whole life, you guys. I'm just willing to say it, in public. Um, yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, one of the ways that I really started doing a lot of the public speaking, getting the following and all of that we're seeing, which by the way, we just hit 55,000 on YouTube, which is kind of fun because we just started the YouTube like 2
It's
months
amazing.
ago. Yeah, how cool is that? But back to that is just being so raw about my failures because here's like the real takeaway, the way it got easier for me is you just stop caring about the failure. It's more about just showing up when you're scared because that's just a momentary failure. Some of those things, like I just told you about that massive client that we lost, literally made me millions and made my other companies more profitable by 7 to 8 figures because I had the data behind these other massive companies and these logos and all. So if you just stick with it, if you focus and you go, I don't care about what this momentary failure might be. That's a fake rule. Don't believe in that. I'm just going to keep going when I'm scared. I'm going to find what scares me and show up. That's the biggest turning point. And when you can get through that, and if you're really brave, if you can have some fun in all that fear, uh, if you ask me, that's kind of what life's all about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's the balancing act, right? And that's the thing that we struggle with the most. And even in just sales development, right? It's like, do we want to say too much? Do we not want to say too much? Do we want to be aggressive? Do we want to not be aggressive? So you're always talking about, complexity kills progress.
Mhm.
I say confused people do nothing, right?
I love
And
it.
but on the other side, you have, fear fuels growth. So what's that difference, that balancing act between like a healthy risk, for instance, versus reckless
Mm.
decisions in business?
Mhm. I think this applies. It's funny how much business advice applies to life, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But I think this is a life and business hack. Look at your motivation. It's, when I talk about fear forward, I say find what scares you and then show up. Your motivation should be, does this scare me? I don't particularly want to go skydiving. It's just not a thing, but failing in public does scare me. So maybe that's what I should lean into. It's the same thing with a business decision. It's the same thing with your marriage or your partner. It's the same thing with what you decide to do with your time, how you decide to invest your time. Are you going to watch a show or go for a walk? You know,
Right.
which is ultimately what's your motivation? What are you really hoping for? That if that can be the guiding principle for how you make decisions, you'll always make better decisions. If you don't want to hire someone because they're better than you and it threatens you, that's probably not the best motivation for not hiring someone. If
Right.
you want to build a solution because it'll make you a lot of money. Look, I love making money and I'm really damn good at it too. I have no shame. I think everybody should, if they like making money, should talk about it. Just like I like public speaking. There's things I like and making money is one of them. But if that's your only motivator or your leading motivator, that's the wrong motivation. So fundamentally, when it comes to life, if your motivation is in the right place, the rest of it really will fall in place. Warren Buffett talks about that a lot too. You really can't teach integrity. It's got to be fundamental. And from that, it's the foundation where everything else is built from.
I love that. How has your approach to creating content evolved as you've gone from being a founder to becoming a trusted voice for executive leaders? And how does that tie into the legacy you aim to build?
I'd say don't do what I do, It's probably backwards than any brand publicist would ever recommend doing. But I guess that's just what I do now. When I first started in business, when I started, my clinic or even in my law practice or on the tech side or even on the speaking and influencing side now, um, what I've noticed is I was very scared originally to use social media because I didn't want to be polarizing. I didn't want to offend anybody because I thought it would scare sales away or scare clients away or offend people. I don't want to, there's enough of that in the world. I didn't want to be that. Um, and so it was a lot of repeating like posts from work or just not talking at all. And I would get like the obligatory, 10, 15, 20 likes, and that was it. It had nothing to do with me, and I wasn't growing. The cool thing about what I'm learning with how I'm using social media, and again, do not follow my example because it's not easy. You get a lot of questions, and there's a lot out there about me now. Um, Including recently a video now of me crying because someone thought that would up the ante. So that's out there too, make memes as you will. But now I'm just far more honest, far more bold. I just tell people when I'm scared. I tell people when I'm messing up. I tell people when I'm scared of messing up. And I'm willing to talk about the wins too. I wrote something called The Art of the Subtle Brag. There's also a lot of wins when you can share your wins. The goal, by the way, I'll spare you the read. The art of the subtle brag is just, hey, I did this. You can do it too. That's it.
Right. So you're often exploring, right, the personal side and the professional side.
Mhm.
So what does freedom look like for you now, and how has that changed for you over time?
Ooh, freedom. Who doesn't want that? I would say it's just being my most authentic self. You know, um, it's exhausting not to be you. Sometimes it's hard because you don't really know fully who you are. And so by just showing up for who you are in that moment or for that day, it helps you kind of find yourself maybe more fully. But that's what freedom really looks like is you have a lot more energy, you have a lot more time when you just show up as your best, most authentic self. And what's best for me today might not be my best tomorrow. So just being very forgiving, not taking it too seriously. That's what I call a fake rule. I think sometimes we take ourselves and life just a little too seriously. I think you should have a little fun with it. That's freedom to me. And if you really want like some bonus points, some extra credit, just and I'm not Jewish, but I'm in an interfaith study with a bunch of tech execs kind of across the world. And we get together and one of the gentlemen is Jewish and he said there's this prayer that they say like 100 times a day that says, "Thank you for getting me to this moment." And you say it in bad times and in good times. And I was just outside. It's a beautiful day in Chicago. I'm walking along the beach with my little Frenchie pug, which if you know me is Louis. Louis is just the most beautiful creature you've ever seen in your life. And he's running on the beach. And this was a dog that was, paralyzed. I mean, I was told, hey, you have to be prepared. He might not walk again. And to see that goofy little body run along the beach with the biggest smile, that's what life's about.
Yeah,
That's what life's about.
absolutely.
So just take those moments. It was 3 seconds of my dog running on a beach. Just take that moment. Life is tough. Take that moment.
Absolutely. So let's get tactical for a second.
Love it.
You're advising founders, you're advising owners, you're advising leaders of business. And, with your podcast, Leadership Live is amazing. So walk me through it. What's your advice tactically for founders who are listening to this, who haven't jumped into the content game, who haven't started a podcast, who isn't posting, they're building a business and they think it's, a distraction or they think
Right.
they don't have the time for it. How do what's your recommendation to have them get out there, take the leap?
I would say no matter what, first of all, social's not for everyone. Not everyone should start a podcast. Some of your podcasts are terrible. And I know some of mine are too, by the way. Like I'll own it. I get it. Takes a long time to get good and get the equipment. And I mean the lights and the editing, it's more expensive and complicated and time consuming than you even know. So
Right.
maybe it's not for you. That's okay. I would say if you really want simple, because we love simple, um, just be yourself. Post about yourself. Don't post about the company. People buy from people. They don't remember what you said, they remember how you made them feel. Be yourself. That's when things really started to grow. Some of the largest opportunities and clients came from just being authentic. So if you can talk about and be passionate about why you're building what you're building, show up, people are going to buy that. They're going to be excited about that. Do that. And it doesn't mean you have to post. I post once a month. So no, you don't have to post every day or every 5 days. And then the other thing is, if podcasting or writing isn't your thing, get on someone else's podcast or do an article with 2 people or so don't get so pigeonholed in I've got to do this. Do what makes you happy because you're stressed enough. You're starting a company, do something fun. Yeah.
That's awesome. And you've mentioned working with AI companies. We're seeing AI change so much about how we work, especially in how leaders communicate, show up. From your perspective, what should leaders really be looking out for right now with AI?
Oh, and I love AI so much. I'm just not one of those doom and gloomers. I know I'm a little Pollyanna. My nickname is Sunshine Tornado. I get it, but I think AI is cool. And I think there's ups and downs to everything, right? We saw it with the internet. We've seen it with every, you know, I guess evolution that there's been ups and downs. But I would say, I was just talking to or advising a CEO yesterday. He wants to build another company. And we were talking about ways that we could include AI into his solution. And he said, "Oh, yeah, yeah, there'll be AI on the back end." And I'm like, "No, AI is not a bad, now this is one person's opinion. And by the way, if you disagree, put it in there because that's how we all learn, or if you agree, put that in there too. This is how we all grow and learn. I don't know all the answers, nor do you want me to know all the answers. Um, but I think if I have one guiding light, one principle for leaders right now is get at least familiar with the vernacular and the opportunity that AI brings. There's lots of people who want to sell you and who will talk to you about this. Surround yourself with really smart people who don't have anything to sell you. I mean, anybody who's leading, hopefully you have effectively your own board of advisors. I have folks that if I've got, a legal question, I go here. If I've got a business question, I go here. If I have a life question, I go here. Build that out and talk to them. I mean, get double down on understanding what AI can do right now. And it's been like this for a little bit, at least, 5, 6 years. Data is one of the biggest assets your company will have. And if you can get smart with how you're using data and how you use it to help other people, you're going to make 7, 8, 9 figures.
Yeah. So you talk a lot about, and I love this about you, is your ability to be around smart people and putting smart people in a room and associating with that. I think when you deal with founders who are really smart, especially those tech wizards who develop their own product, they're
Very
developers,
cool.
they have a hard time, getting out of their own way when it comes to bringing smart people in. Like I feel like sometimes they always have to be the smartest people in the room. And what I found is it's exact opposite. My role as CEO here is, hire and find really smart people and then get out of their way.
Mhm.
So what's your advice there when it comes to, leadership development and attracting the right people into companies to help build your business?
Yeah. I will say people make or break a company. There's no doubt about it. But some founders really are the smartest person in the room, and that's okay. It worked for Steve Jobs. It worked for, Wozniak. So there you go. He had, a genius with him too. It worked for Gates. So listen, if you really are that genius that's going to build the next, you know, change the world kind of thing, go for it. Be a monster. Just go for it, I guess. Um, yeah, I don't ignoring the politics. Elon is the richest man in the world. Now, how he got there and all that stuff, I'm not talking about that. But so there are some people who just are the smartest people. And I
Right.
think a lot of times we can get on these platitudes to say, oh, it's all about collaboration and y'all got to come together. Sometimes it works better to not all work together. Someone's got a vision and they're brilliant and you just go with it. Sometimes I'm very similar to you, Gabe. Sometimes you hire those visionary, those brilliant people, and you just get every obstacle out of their way. And both models work. You have to figure out which one's working for you. Um, I certainly am a collaborator. I like collaboration. I like pulling in smart people because I also like to move fast and build fast. And A players want to work with A players. So I would say focus on, certainly focus on your team, but I also wouldn't over rotate. If you are one of those, celebrities, there's not many, but statistically, there's what, a million in the world? If there's 8 billion people, if you're one in a million, go for it. I just wouldn't stop them. That's all.
Awesome. You balance many roles: entrepreneur, strategist, speaker, content creator. How do you stay sharp, stay grounded, and stay human with everything that you have going on?
My biggest change has been hobbies. And they all actually now that I think about it, they've all stemmed from fear forward. So I was scared of failing in public. So I signed up for stand-up comedy. and, write jokes and, do comedy around the US, I was afraid of bombing in public, so I signed up to sing and now I sing in front of thousands of people. So finding hobbies I was scared of, um, sort of some physical capabilities. So I signed up for a marathon and now I love to run. And so it's really, stemmed from being scared and taking them on and then finding out that I love them. Some I hate, by the way. I still hate swimming. I did finish the triathlon, but I'm not a swimmer. We learned that the hard way. But so I would say a lot of hobbies, it's a good way to learn, it's a good way to stretch. But I also recognize it's a privilege, the easiest, fastest, cheapest way to do that, to, kind of grow and invest, is actually twofold. There's two exact things that I do. One is I block out time on my calendar. You've probably heard me talk about this before. I call it an investment block. I encourage everyone on my team to do the exact same thing. I don't care if it's 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Now I'm up to probably an hour where you just figure out one skill or one topic you want to learn about that week and you focus on it. That's all. And it could be call someone that you know is brilliant at it, read an article. I love using AI now because that's kind of fun, to say, hey, I'm new to this topic. What are some things I need to learn to be able to be more, relevant and relatable to this group? That's your prompt. And then the other thing is, I love that collaboration. So I love calling people and saying, "I don't understand this. What do you think about it?" And then just listening. You would be shocked how many people really wanna give you their advice. There's a lot of science behind it too. It triggers the pleasure center of their brain. But, um, you know, really that people wanna talk to you about some of their, exciting, fun projects or topics. So that's the other thing that I like to carve out time for and, keeps you networking, keeps you fresh. That's what I like.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Time blocking is huge for me too. I mean, you just gotta
Yep.
I hate to-do lists because, they're just I don't like them. If you don't have time to do what you wanna do, then what's the point? So I just love using my calendars as my to-do list. So let's
Same.
talk, again, going back to what's an item that a founder or an executive can do right now who's feeling stuck,
Mm.
right? The markets are turbulent right now. SaaS tech, there's shifting landscapes underneath our feet. So what's one thing that you would advise, someone to do just this week that could change everything for them?
If I was in that situation, the first thing I would do is figure out who can I talk to who's the absolute best person in my network or one person removed that can help me solve this problem. And then what are three things that I need to get out of that conversation? And then I prioritize it. And then I figure out, okay, how do I get in front of this person? Um, the reality is everyone can get in front of anybody today, Things like LinkedIn make it so easy. And if you get really good at messaging, which I've studied, how do you get my response rate is about an 85%. It's pretty high, from people who don't know me. So I would say get good at that and focus on who can help me solve this problem. If I have one thing that I've gotta do, that's what I would do, but I would show up with those 3 things. Here are the 3 things I gotta get out of this meeting. I tend to write them in a question because, again, back to the brain science of it, it triggers their pleasure center of their brain when you say, "I'm struggling with this. Can I get your perspective or can I get your guidance?" Those are the 2 things that work the best from a neuroscience perspective to get someone, that you value, and I would put that in your writing. I'd reach out to someone on LinkedIn, for instance, or someone on my network and say, "Hey, Gabe, you know Lexi. Do you mind making an intro? Because I'm really struggling with this. And I know I could help, I know she could help me gain some guidance on that or gain some perspective on that." That's how simple I would keep it, by the way. 2 sentences.
Yep.
That's how I'd handle
So I got to double down. 80% response
it.
rate.
85. Yeah. Yeah.
85. Oh,
Yeah.
I love how you corrected the.
Hey, I'm a numbers person, and that's it should be a 95. That's the perfectionist in me.
How do you do it? Like, I mean, there's a lot of sales reps on this audience right now that are listening. They're probably wanting me to ask this question, like, "Whoa, say that again. What are you doing?" So walk me through it. I love the introduction or bringing a third party in to do an introduction. But are there any other tactics?
So the third party, yes, and this is something I would say, uh, I just became an expert in. I doubled down. I mean, from like the science, behavioral science, all the way, and of course, just testing it out. The reason why I know it's 85% is because I love measuring this. Okay, I got more response
Yep.
here, less response here.
Yep.
So here's
I love that.
exactly what you need to do if you need someone to respond to you. First of
Okay.
all, the most important thing that you do is that first word in your email or in your LinkedIn message or whatever it is, whatever DM you're using. If you know someone, you have to use their name. There's a lot of social bias and pressure when you do that. So if I'm trying to talk to Lexi and I know you, Gabe, I would say, instead of a lot of people will say, hope you're well. It's so nice to meet you. My name is Sabrina. We haven't met before. I'm your account manager. I'm the new CEO of no one cares. It's not about you. You've lost them. You would say, Gabe was just telling me about how great you are in blank. He mentioned we should connect and I could use your guidance and perspective on this. Then here's the next thing. New paragraph. How does give a chunk of time or give another chunk of time work for you? How does Wednesday 3 to 5 or Tuesday 12 to 1 look for you or 12 to 4 look for you? Science shows that when you give exactly 2 times and you give a chunk of time, people are more likely to respond with a different time if it works, if one of those times doesn't work for them. If you give them 3, there's too many options, too many choices. And if you don't give a chunk of time or you give 1, it just doesn't come off right. So always start with the most important thing, the person's name, if you at all can. And should be Gabe and I were just talking, not. And then the third thing, if you really want like a behavioral science hack,
Yes.
is
Yes. Yeah.
don't put the nice things in the front, put it at the back end. So happy Friday. Hope you do something fun this weekend. Or I always like to say, enjoy the rest of your day. Because I really genuinely, even when I never hear from them, I hope they enjoy the rest of their day. So I'll say, have a good one or enjoy your day. Talk soon, Sabrina. Yeah, I don't explain who I am. I don't get because they'll figure it out. It's 2025. They'll figure it out,
Right.
in about 4 clicks. And anything you say is gonna look like a lie anyway. So just tell them what you need, be honest, be upfront, and keep it short. That's how I'd do that.
It's funny. What are your thoughts on this? I stopped capitalizing my sentences.
Oh,
My spot
interesting.
my daughter's 11 years old, and I took the caps lock off of my messages,
Yeah.
and I started messaging. She's like, "Who is this, and what have you done with my father?" Right? Because my mom's an English teacher, so I have, like, this grammar thing
Yeah,
has to
same.
be in everything that I do. But now with AI, everything's so automated that I wanna look that I'm actually a human, so I just shut that off, and my response rates went through the roof.
That's a great
It's
idea.
just
Yeah.
another little hack that's been helping me.
I would try it. Yeah, I think I'm too much of a perfectionist to do it, to be honest. I think my little German heart would just cry. But I'll
I'm, like,
try it,
changing it anytime I do it, but I'm like, it's working."
Yeah, yeah, that's true. And it almost looks like you're too busy, right? Like it's not there's that social pressure kind of relieved. I could see why it would work. But I think even if you just keep it real short, and then the other like sort of bonus point is your subject. Instead of like quick chat or, you're talking about sales acceleration, right? Like you're talking what are they getting out of it? And make it real short. If I really want to pressure someone, here's some other tricks. I love this stuff, you guys. I live for it.
Keep going.
Um,
Great.
the other thing is there's a lot of research that shows if you can copy someone, so even if you have like an admin or a fake admin or a remote, a virtual, whatever, um, there's more social pressure to respond. And I'm trying to think what else is like other like a good and if I really need like another like I got to get this person's answer, I'll do like sales acceleration dash need your guidance, need your help, something like that.
Love it, love it. So I gotta ask this. That's messaging, and that's significant help for a lot of people who are listening. We're seeing a big resurgence in, we talked a lot about content, but in cold calling, right? And actually picking up the phone and having these human to human conversations. What's your thoughts on just, old school telephone, you know, cutting through the noise, and how do you use that in your business?
So we don't do a whole lot of cold calling. What I will say that I encourage the teams to do is, let's say you go to a conference and you meet a bunch of people. I would then pick up the phone and call them. So you've at least had one connection. I think that could be really powerful. And I like that even more than setting up a Zoom call or any kind of video, because it feels like your guard is down a little bit and you can just pick up the phone. And I always recommend making a bit of a joke, like, I just figured I'd go old school and pick up the phone. How's it going? You got a few minutes? You know?
Yep.
Chris Voss, he's the FBI negotiator. If you followed him, he talks a lot about, starting with a no. So, like, is this a bad time? Instead of saying, is this a good time for you? I haven't tried that, but he's a very credible source, so maybe worth trying. The most important thing I would say on the phone is your tonality and like how excited are you? Are you excited about what's going on? Are you excited to be talking to them? Do you love life? Are you generally in a good mood? I think that goes a long way. That goes a really long way.
Sabrina, thank you so much for your time. You've been so motivating. I love all these tips at the end too. They're great. Who should reach out, follow you, and if they want to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do so?
Yeah, you can definitely reach out to me on LinkedIn or Sabrina at sabrinashafer.com. You can go to sabrinashafer.com if you want to find out more about some of the speaking I've got coming up or some of the brands that I'm representing right now, or if you have any questions for your own. Of course, if I can connect people, reach out to me on LinkedIn. You'd be shocked how many degrees, we've probably separated.
Right.
So by all means, reach out. I'd love to connect.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sabrina.
Thanks.